Okay, we are live. How to get your biological age down, how to reverse your biological age. That's what we're talking about today. Discovering your biological age will provide you potentially with the confidence that your current lifestyle is optimal or empower you to make changes if there could be room for improvement. That's what we're talking about today. This concept of biological age on Biohacking News. Hello and welcome to Biohacking News. I'm Tony Wright. Before we go any further, please do like and subscribe. I'm very on brand today, wearing Biohacking News sort of orange. And really looking forward to talking about biological age with two guests who have a disgusting biological age. I'm really quite annoyed about this. We'll get onto what their biological age is in a second. But Lucy and Joey from the Sweaty AF podcast, how are you?
Hi, Jason. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Yeah, so we'll get onto this concept of biological age in a second. Before that, saw you at the weekend at the Health Optimization Summit. You had this incredible schedule. Tell people watching, Lucy first, tell us what exactly you were doing at the Health Optimization Summit at the weekend, because it was a punishing schedule for you.
It was an amazing weekend. So amazing event. Thank you to Tim who put it on. We took the podcast. So we have a podcast, Sweaty AF podcast, where we normally have guests in the comfortability of Joey's home, actually, with our ice bath. We took it to HOS. So we had a select number of guests. I think we had 4 each day, who joined us in the sauna for a very brief podcast, and followed by dips in Betty's brothers and sisters in front of a live audience. So that was something very daunting for us initially, actually. But yeah, it was amazing. The vibe both days was amazing.
Good. It was good energy. Yeah.
Great energy. Amazing people.
What was quite nice was the podcasts that we did were just very short. So they were just a couple of minutes, like speaking to people in the industry, just asking them what their top 3 biohacks are that they do. So it was nice to get an understanding of like what everybody is doing within the industry themselves personally, not just related necessarily to their products that they were promoting. So it was kind of a little sneak peek into people's lives.
Yeah. I mean, you were very brave on a number of levels. Firstly, you're doing these ice baths and stripping off in front of 3,000 people in this huge hall in Islington in London. And then the amount, I mean, how many ice baths and saunas did you do over the weekend?
Well, we did 10 ice baths.
10 ice baths and
about 20 saunas.
Because we would go into warm up between the ice baths. But yeah, it was quite daunting to start with. And then the adrenaline took over.
Yeah. It was less about doing the contrast therapy so many times, I think, and more about just getting down to your swimsuit in front of
3,000 people
in our 40s in front of loads of people.
Yeah, so. Exactly. But I mean, they had the main stand right at the entrance, didn't they? So it was just as everybody was arriving. It was but it was amazing. I mean, we love working with Brass Monkey and Sunlight, and Brass Monkey had the most amazing breathwork practitioner, Louise, who worked with us and really helped our guests, guided them through, and so we were just responsible for ourselves, actually, which was nice. And
and we did get some quite unique responses. Like some of the guests had not done an ice bath, or they had not done cold water exposure to that level. So some of them actually did find it hard, because it is a hard thing to do, right? And it's quite good sometimes for us to remember that it is a challenging thing, and you would be easy to forget about it because we're just hopping in and out and just doing it, and it's part of our routine. But actually, it's to do it for the first time is a big deal.
And they were set to half a degree.
Yeah, it was cold.
So they were very cold.
Yeah, they're a very cool bit of kit. And actually, it's funny on the at the dinner on the Friday night, I was joking with someone that this is one of the very few events of the year when I really think about what I'm going to wear, and I don't normally do that. But for you, it was a whole different level, because it wasn't just what you were going to wear when you were clothed; it was what you were going to wear in the ice baths as well.
The sauna as well, which was open sauna with thousands of people walking by, and we were sat there in our swimwear. It was.
I said maybe because we got the red light panels behind us as well, and I was like, maybe this is what it feels like to be in Amsterdam.
In on us like we were for sale.
Yeah.
Obviously, the saunas were for sale. But it was a bonkers experience, but we loved it.
Brilliant. Well done. Anyway, encourage everyone to listen to the podcast that you recorded there. Let's get on to today's top story, and it is about how to get your biological age down. So this is something that you could test at the Health Optimization Summit, and actually I did. And one of the reasons that I wanted to speak to you guys today. So just to go over this for people, discovering your biological age is really interesting. You've got your actual age and then your biological age. So what age your body is representing at. And aging, while a natural process, is the accumulation of damage in your body over time caused by a long-term overactivation of the immune system, caused by hitting it too hard in your 20s, caused by all sorts of different things. And so if you discover your biological age, that can potentially be good information. It can provide you with the confidence that you're doing the right thing. It could empower you to make changes. And the big question is, how do we get our biological age down? Now, the glycan age test is the one that was at the Health Optimization Summit. I've done that before. It's very responsible and responsive to lifestyle changes. And I am disgusted at you two and your biological ages. So let's start with you then. You guys have both done the glycan age test. And I know you're good friends with the glycan, with Zori and Nina from glycan age as well. What is your biological age?
20, and I am chronological and 44, so a reduction of 24 years.
I'm actually waiting for my results to come back in. I did it a while ago, and I think it was in my 20s, but I've redone it for a number of reasons, and I'm waiting for that. So it's like when you're like, oh, what's it going to be?
Because it's not just the age that it gives you. There's other metrics in there, so lifestyle factors, and those are the metrics you need to kind of take note of as well. So it's amazing to come back as 20, but it doesn't mean that there's not work to be done. Like my lifestyle factor, that can change, it can go up and down. So the more you're testing, the more you're keeping a baseline of where you are and where you're going, and if what you're doing is working, which it is for us, because we are, your first one was in your 20s. You're hoping to bring it down even more for some reason, but it is
Brian Johnsons of the Sweaty AF world. Actually, because I was watching Tim Gray's talk at the weekend, and he mentioned his glycan age test, and his was something disgustingly low as well. And I was thinking, when I did it, when I did it, mine was not that much lower than my actual age. I did it about 3 years ago. I think I was 47. And my biological age was 46. So I've done it again this weekend. I feel much more healthy than I did 3 years ago, and everything's going really well. But it'll be fascinating to see. I've just turned 50 last week. Let's see what happens. Maybe I'll be down to the 20s biologically. Who knows?
But it is a snapshot in time, and I think this is what glycan age want people to be aware of. Is it's a kind of constant process, and they recommend testing once a year, because it is amazing to come back at 20, but there are different things that can affect. So you say that you also came back only slightly younger than your actual age. Maybe you were under stress at that time, and that can have a real massive impact on your results.
I think also what's interesting about having it as a metric is it can kind of almost predict what might be happening slightly in the future. So if you've been getting 20s and then all of a sudden you test and you're 30, 40, 50, then you have this amazing opportunity before you get anything symptomatic going on to be like, right, what have I changed? What am I doing? What could this potentially mean? And you're kind of just like one step ahead in the game.
And it is.
I just want to tell people how it actually works, because it determines your biological age by looking at the state of your immune system and inflammation. And they analyze the glycans attached to the most common antibody in your blood. So that's how glycan age works. Yeah, and I certainly have noticed with other tests before, when my immune system is low, the results come out terrible. And then you might actually take the same test a few weeks or a few months later, it'll come back quite differently. And I guess that's what you're saying about this test as well. It's a snapshot in time.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a good snapshot, but if you are having a particularly hard period in your life, like I wouldn't have wanted to test myself a few years ago when I was going through my divorce. I'm pretty sure I'd have come back at about 100 at that point, because it does, and I think it's a great test because it is lifestyle based, and because it's checking your inflammatory markers. We all know that chronic diseases will come from inflammation, or present with inflammation. So the amazing thing about them is once you've taken the test, you then get a meeting with a Zoom with a scientist who can help you work out where you might be going wrong and what things you can change to bring the markers down, dependent on what you need to bring, what you need to change. So there is that aftercare, which I think is amazing. It's very bespoke. Yeah, the call's amazing.
Yeah, I did have that call in the past. And so I've sort of titled this podcast, How Can We Get Our Biological Age Down? The main areas really are diet, exercise, sleep, and stress management. I mean, those ones, sleep, a massive one, and stress management as well. For me, that's such a big one as well. Just like, obviously, my heart rate variability is so much better than when I'm on holiday than when I'm doing a 10-hour workday.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah. I mean, you feel ill if you're stressed. I've had periods in my life where I have been very stressful, which we all have, and it makes you physically ill. So yeah,
I think it's also like a really good reminder, like with all the biohacking that we're doing and all the tech that we're introducing and all that is all amazing, but until you have those kind of 4 things sorted, the base, you're not maybe really getting the most out of your supplements and things if you haven't got an amazing diet, a good diet and good sleep and an ability to manage stress. I mean, you're never going to get rid of stress. We jump in the ice bath to get some stress. Some stress is good, but it's just how you manage it.
I was going to say, actually, it would have been quite interesting if you'd done a glycogenation. You didn't do the test at the weekend at the Health Optimization Summit, did you? No, because doing 10 ice baths over a weekend, you might have looked like a very frail 89-year-old.
Yeah, we did on Monday morning. We were very frail on Monday morning. It has to be said.
Yeah. I've been up. My sleep has got so dramatically better over the last few months, partly because of my partners on this podcast. This sleep breakthrough product is just so incredible. I sleep so much deeper now, and my sleep stats have gone up on average about 50 minutes a night over the course of the last couple of months. And I really do think that I can just notice all the knock-on benefits on health. The other thing is just a regular bedtime and going to bed boringly early. And I know you guys are a fan of a boring bedtime as well.
Yes, we are. 9 p.m.
Actually, you know what? Like a few weeks ago, we had Be Grounded on the podcast, which they sell grounding products.
Yeah.
Bought us grounding sheets for the bed. And I think I've noticed a little bit of a difference since I've been using it, actually. Yeah, just anecdotally, I just feel
HRV's popped up.
Yeah. My REM sleep seems to have improved since I've been using that.
I've got to say, this week after the weekend, my Whoop scores looked like a flat line when I was asleep because I was in such a solid sleep for the last 3 nights that I had no wake events or minimal. So just think sheer exhaustion works as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I really look forward to hearing what your new score is on your biological age test, and I will keep you posted on mine as well. I'll be very happy if it goes down. I sort of recommend it to people, actually. I think it's quite an interesting, it's different from a lot of the testing that you might get with your functional health practitioner, which might be, a sort of organic acids test or something like that. But it is really interesting. And as you say, it is a good little snapshot of whether you're generally doing the right stuff.
Yeah. And it's easy as well, right? You just do it, send it in the post, and
Well, if it's easy for Joey, it's easy for anyone because she's scared of needles.
I have a video of Zori actually from Glycanase. She actually did mine at my house, and you can see it on my face. I'm like, is that it? Anybody can do it.
Excellent. Okay, well, let's move on to our next story then. It is that biohacking event season is still going. There's been 3 big events in the last few weeks. The Biohacking Summit is in Helsinki, happening on July the 2nd and 3rd, so very shortly. And just reflecting on what's been going on, because a lot of people have been saying to me this week, well, what are some of the trends? What's the new stuff in biohacking? And I wanted to speak to you guys today because I feel like one of the big trends in biohacking is that a specific focus on female biohacking, female hormone hacking, is on the rise. 70% of the attendees at the Health Optimization Summit were female this year. And you had some powerhouse female speakers like Dr. Mindy Peltz and Dr. Stephanie Estima, and JJ Virgin was speaking at the summit as well. And across all these events, there's been very strong female speakers. And I have felt over the years, there's much more of a narrative around what was previously presented as right for everybody was actually mainly right for us blokes. And for women, especially in the area of fasting and diet, it's often a very different story. Is that something that you've picked up?
Well, Joey's a nutritionist, so she...
I mean, with the... yes, it is, sure.
It is,
Short answer. And bloody good job as well, because, it's about time. Because women do need different things to men. I mean, even just things as sleep, it's proven women need more sleep than men. And with fasting, like you say, different times of the month, different times of life stage as well, I think is becoming more talked about. So what we need in our 20s is different to what we need in our 40s and our 60s. And it's really good to see. Because especially for younger women as well, I think we recently were talking on the podcast about hormones and how younger women are actually taking a little bit more control. They're not just accepting like, oh, the only answer is to go on the contraceptive pill. It's sort of like, what other options are out there for me? What might this do to my body? How does this impact me on a physical, but also an emotional, mental level? And I think we're only just starting to layer up actually what all these issues are for women, and that they are completely different to men.
Do you get frustrated at the biohacking world? One of my favorite speakers, and I mentioned this on the podcast this week, was Dr. Mindy Peltz. What an energy she's got on the stage. Absolutely brilliant. She was encouraging her overwhelmingly female audience, I was one of the few men in there, to go out onto the hall and ask brands and products, have you tested this on women in particular? What does it do for women in particular? Do you get frustrated? Do you feel that the biohacking world is too male dominated, or is there space for everybody?
It is very male dominated,
which is why we're here.
But it doesn't frustrate me. I think it's just everything's evolving in life. I mean, women research wasn't done on women at all until the 80s, and
I think it was only last year that there were equal number of research on men and women. It's
only last year.
It's going in the right direction, but we need to voice that. And it's amazing when somebody like Mindy voices that. I
mean, I think Tim also talks an awful lot about female hormones. It's not.
Yes, he does.
Geared towards male. He does have a great female audience, and I think there needs to be more of that.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly see that my audience is slightly more female than male, and it is interesting to see that 70% of the attendees at this year's Health Optimization Summit are women. And then obviously you've got these other events happening, and they are becoming far more inclusive. Are you going to the Biohacking Summit in Helsinki?
No, I wish we were.
Yeah, our kids are finishing school that week, so we have all number of school events. We did go to the one in his summit in London last year
when Timmy came to London,
which was amazing. Oh, the vibe was amazing, but sadly we're not.
I believe the one that they held last year, am I right in saying the one they held last year, they were handing out psychedelics on entry at Amsterdam? I think that might have been the one.
Didn't go there. We were too busy in our red light box.
I think it's fair to say you've made a name for yourselves this weekend.
Oh my God.
Now, my friend Alex from Exhale Coffee sent me this story this morning, and he was like, I haven't heard of this, mate. Have you heard of it? And it is grinder biohacking. Joey, Lucy, let's talk about grinder biohacking. This is hitting the headlines at the moment. This is a biohacking subculture that sees every part of the human body as hackable. In general, grinders seek to become what can only be described as cyborgs by optimizing their bodies with a combination of gadgets, chemical injections, implants, and anything else they can put into their body to make it work the way they want it to. I mean, it's very different from the more ancestral, natural form of biohacking practiced normally, and perhaps that we sort of talk about. But I wanted to cover it because I think we know all about biohacking in this world, and this podcast is called Biohacking News. But a lot of my mates sort of say, what's biohacking? And I don't really want them to think it's grinder biohacking. Do you know what I mean?
No, and I think it is becoming, I mean, our tagline is bringing biohacking mainstream. We're not into it, but there's a place for everything, and each person has their own, take on it. Ours isn't quite as extreme as others.
And I mean, if they're finding benefit to improve their health in those ways, then great.
Amazing.
The outcome is ultimately still the same. But I think for us, it's like, if people think that is biohacking, it might put them off engaging a little bit in what we're doing in the community, that we're all in, which is a shame, because actually so many people can get benefit from that more kind of natural, basic, free biohacking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've got a friend who lives out here. We went for a long walk last night, and he was asking me about the Health Optimization Summit and what were the key takeaways and what are the new trends and that sort of thing. And we were reflecting how when I first started going to these biohacking events back in 2016, 2017, everyone was drinking bulletproof coffee.
Yeah.
And now nobody does. It's such a waste of calories, isn't it? It's like, it's so heavy and thick. And so trends do move on. And he was joking that actually at the end of it, we can spend years trying to figure out exactly the right approach. But if you go back to some of the sort of ancient ways if you go to Ayurveda, for example, most of the answers are there.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
For preventative, which is what where it kind of needs to be good.
You need to start.
Yeah.
I actually love Ayurvedic medicine and practices and stuff. That's what I am really into.
Great. Yeah, I mean, and I sort of define biohacking as really a more natural, primal, ancestral way of being and returning to that. And most of the time, that's all you need. But when that's not available, like in England in the middle of the winter when you've got 3 hours of daylight and the sun isn't out, then you can turn to technology to help. But really, the free stuff is more accessible and more inclusive, but also normally better as well. Ultimately, if you were to go and sleep on the ground outside, it would work even better than a grounding sheet, but you just don't want to go and sleep on the ground outside.
No, exactly. I mean, that's what we can
try one night.
That's totally our vibe. It's like, if you can do it for free, do it. And then anything else, pick and choose.
Add your stacks.
Yeah. But Lucy, it's funny you say that, because last year, when I went to Glastonbury, I was sleeping on the ground and my heart rate variability was so high. There really is something in grounding by sleeping on the ground.
Yeah, definitely. We have noticed a difference.
You were also probably super happy, weren't you? Relaxed.
I was. Yeah. It was massively culturally uplifting and spending lots of good time with family and with faith and with friends and everything else. Let's talk about a review then. We haven't actually planned this in advance, so I don't know if you've thought about something you'd like to review. If not, you could do the grounding mats or the grounding bed sheets. But if you've got something in mind, that'd be great. But obviously, we do the main podcast and then we do a review. What have you got for me?
We know what we can review, because it's a huge favourite of ours, is London Nootropics.
Oh, right. Yeah, great. All right. Tell me all about it, because I don't know anything about. So it's London Nootropics.
Yeah, they were there at the weekend. Zane and Shez are the founders, and they are
coffee blended with adaptogens, nootropics. So they have 3 different blends. One has cordyceps in, so very good for producing energy and reinvigorating you. Your favorite is the one that has lion's mane in, so always good to have before a meeting. And the other one is Zen. It has ashwagandha in and L-theanine. So we were actually finding, we both had a Pret subscription. We were drinking a lot of coffee because we were out, super busy, and we were both getting a little bit anxious.
Anxiety, yeah.
And then we started recording at home more. Zane and Shaz sent us a ton of coffee to give to our guests, and we replaced those with the caffeine, and we've just noticed both of us such a big difference in just feeling better, more calm, more zen, more flow.
Yeah. And they are the coolest guys ever. Ever. They source their
they have like very good provenance for their ingredients and stuff, and they live and breathe it. And I think when somebody has a product that they live and breathe, you can really feel the energy.
Yeah.
So what is the ingredient in particular, do you think, that's making such a difference? Is it because you said that you were sort of feeling calmer and more relaxed? Is that the L-theanine, or is it the blend?
I think it's the different blends. So because it's not just having caffeine cold, it's having them with each of the different kind of adaptogens in whichever blend that you choose.
And the L-theanine definitely takes that edge off of the caffeine.
Yeah. So how does it come? Does it come in sachets?
Yeah, I'll show you.
Yes, I want full demo from you because I think people. Do you know what? This part of the podcast is actually more popular than the main podcast now. So okay, that's testing my 50-year-old eyesight, but that is your selection box of these nootropics.
So they come super cute in little like little sachets like this.
Oh, do you know what's really funny? Faith had one of those this morning, and she offered me one, and I was like, "Nah, mate, I'm gonna have a normal coffee."
No, very good. So yeah, that's Lisa's favorite, the Flow with the lion's mane in. I think I'm probably a Zen ashwagandha, but if we're going to the gym, it's Mojo.
And what's Mojo got in it?
It's got cordyceps and ginseng.
And do you really genuinely feel more energy after having that?
The lion's mane, it's immediate. I can honestly feel any level of brain fog
switched on,
disappear. I always have one before a meeting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a powerful testimonial, because I think there's a lot of things in this world. There are a lot of supplements at the Health Optimization Summit and at all these conferences and events that you go to, and not all of them you feel a massive difference, really.
No, I agree. And I'm quite, obviously with a background in nutrition, I'm quite fussy about supplements and just try and take the bare minimum from, try and get as much as possible from diet. But I think we feel an immediate
it just
response
elevates your life. it just elevates the way you feel.
But it was very interesting to how quickly we both changed.
Yeah, I was I was getting a level of anxiety. I have suffered with anxiety a few times in my life, and a few weeks ago it was, wasn't it? And I think we both were. We're getting busier and busier now, and this has become a full-time job, and there's a lot going on. And there was a level of anxiety a few weeks ago, and we figured we were drinking a little bit too much coffee. The switch was immediate. I actually cut caffeine fully for 2 days. And then had the nootropics and the anxiety just.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So London nootropics, and you can either energize or just sort of calm down and calm the jitters down a little bit as well. You mentioned that you had a Pret. I know Pret pride themselves on organic coffee, but there's no doubt that the coffee you get in major chains like that can give you the jitters in a way that a really good quality coffee might not.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And we love our coffee.
Yeah.
Look, we are huge fans
with proper milk as well, though. Yeah. And now when you go to an event, Zane will give you the opportunity to have non-homogenized organic dairy milk,
which came
Lovely.
from Joey's recommendations.
Well done. So do you drink raw milk?
I'd love to, but it's just hard. It's hard getting hold of it and getting through the quantities that I get through with my kids. So I use Ocado, and they stock Dalesford non-homogenized. So it's like, for me, it's the next best thing.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So what's next for you? I know you're very busy at the moment. I know you've got a podcast. We've obviously talked about biological age today, and you do have a full podcast coming up with Glycan Age, don't you?
We do, and they also came and they did a big dip in Betty. The whole kind of team came down and talked to us about the inflammation and cold therapy, which was really cool.
Yeah, we have 2 series running with Brass Monkey at the moment. The first one has been released, so that's an episode coming out every other week. And that's our series is Chill with Sweaty AF. And that's a little more relaxed with people that we've met previously from podcasts, although we did have the Ice Viking, GB's ice swimmer on as well. He was awesome. That's a 10-part series, and next week we wrap our second series with them, which is a more docu-style series. So we have specialists in breath work, menopause, hormones, sleep, physical fitness, and how it works alongside cold therapy. But they're also talking about their specialisms. So that wraps next week, and then we are both working, but actually away most of the summer with individually with our kids. And so we will be working externally.
Yeah, and on that we're also having a bit of a focus now on kids. Because we think, we should probably all be biohacking our kids a little bit. So we are. Well,
we are, and we know you are, because we saw a picture of your shoes that you bought Stan the other day. So,
we've had to sort of, as we did with Chill with Sweaty AF, we also have to kind of tweak our branding a little bit for the younger market. So we are, for that series, we are going to be Sweaty and Family.
Oh, great. That's very cool. Yeah. Well, I will definitely be listening to that. And as you say, we went down to the Vivo Barefoot store in London, and there was a huge queue outside, so big we couldn't get in. And then went down another day. Faith went on her own. It was still a queue, still had to queue, but it was less a queue. And we went in, 2 pairs of shoes for Stan. Basically, that's a new mortgage. But they're just so much. And you know what? The moment you put them on, you could see they just. I made the mistake of going to Clark's because his other shoes just didn't fit anymore. The week before we went to Vivo Barefoot, it was like, you need something for a week before we get to Vivo Barefoot. And these shoes we bought from Clark's were 40 quid and they didn't fit properly. And now that's just like 40 quid wasted. So I've learnt my lesson there. He needs, wide, barefoot, primal shoes.
Mm-hmm. No, it's really good.
Yeah. And then once kids get to sort of your age kids and get a bit older, do they want to wear primal shoes anymore, or are they just not cool anymore?
Look, I'm going to be honest. I've got an 18-year-old. Not a chance. So maybe there's a market for cool, aim at that kind of age range.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll use the grounding mat.
She does. Actually, she does ground. So we have another one that she sits on.
Yeah.
And she studies and sits on it. So. Yeah, all of our kids are into.
Well, I was just saying this. My parents came to babysit the other day, and I was like, make sure he goes to bed or whatever. And then he said to my mom, "Oh, you need to make sure before I go to bed, I have my ashwagandha and my probiotic, and that you put magnesium on my feet." And my mom was just sort of like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Oh, that's brilliant.
But it just becomes part of their routine, doesn't it? It doesn't have to be supplements. It can be, whatever, bit of deep breath work at night. So
they come in the ice bath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to do another podcast with you on some point. Once you've really got your head into your Sweaty and Family series, I'd love to talk a bit more about that, because I find myself doing so much research. I after a lot of looking around, I decided that I thought the Seeking Health kids supplements, the chewable multivitamins with methylfolate, I thought they were really good ones. But if you've got any better, I'm always open to suggestions, and I'd love to do a full podcast on it as well.
We'll be having stream of specialists for kids coming in. So yeah, we'll
love that.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Good stuff. Do you approve of Seeking Health kids chewables?
I haven't actually used them myself for my kids, so I can't really comment. I try. It's difficult with kids and supplements, isn't it? It's a tough market.
It's tough because so many of them are just utter crap. But the other ones, I spoke to the founder of Baba West on this podcast, and they have a great powdered supplement that's excellent as well. But Stan decided he didn't like it on his food, so.
And it's difficult to get things in kids.
Yeah.
It really is, because obviously liquid and powders are better than a chewable, but sometimes you've got to do what you've got to do to get it in them, and powders and liquids aren't.
No.
Especially not, I mean, Stan's quite young, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Hey, listen, great to talk to you as always. I said before we started recording, I felt a bit sad we didn't get good quality time, but we are going to get some good quality time in the summer when I'm back in London. So I'll see you then, and keep on doing everything you do with your 10 ice baths over the weekend, stripping off in front of 3,000 people. Love it.
This is it, bonkers. We were saying that a year ago when Joey, we could put the camera in front of us, like, turn
not
it off.
a chance.
Not a chance. Not a picture, not a video, and now there we are.
Thanks. Encourage everyone to follow the Sweaty AF podcast, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks,
Tony.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.